even as we remain vigilant about the threat of terrorism. We must move beyond the mindset of perpetual war. And in America, that means redoubling our efforts to close the prison at Guantanamo. It means...
It was a good applause line in Germany. President Obama's call to close Guantanamo drew some of the loudest applause in this Berlin speech today. But at the prison camp, there is no sign that any closure might happen anytime soon. In fact, today, pretrial hearings continued for 9/11 mastermind Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and 4 other detainees. Joining me now by phone from Guantanamo, where they have been following all of these hearings, Carol Rosenberg of the Miami Herald, and Joe Torrillo is a former FDNY firefighter who was at Ground Zero and, in fact, all but buried during the collapse of the Twin Towers and survived and is attending the hearing today at the invitation of the prosecution. First to you, Carol, what is happening today? Do we again have Khalid Sheikh Mohammed wearing the cami gear and what to many are offensive battle garb?
Yes, Andrea. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and his 4 fellow accused are back in court today. They voluntarily skipped yesterday, and he's shown up in what I would call his uniform, the attire of a hunting uniform called woodland pattern camouflage jacket that the judge has allowed him to wear with a white turban, and he's got the same sort of burnt orange dyed beard. These are strictly legal motions. It's not about the 9/11 attacks, that day, the plot, or the scheme. We're hearing something called an unlawful command motion, unlawful command influence motion. It's a uniquely military thing. You wouldn't get it in a New York trial. It basically says the military and the government meddled in the preparation of this case to stack the deck against the defense. And they've been calling admirals to court to talk about the preparation by the prison, the prosecution, the Pentagon for the case, and talking about things like guard searches of what's supposedly privileged material and the days and months ahead of the initial arraignment. We also heard yesterday, very interestingly, from an international committee of the Red Cross lawyers who asked the judge not to give the defense documents in the hands of the U.S. government about the conditions that these men, Khalid Sheikh Mohammed and the accused 9/11 plotters, were held under by the CIA before they got to Guantanamo. The ICRC lawyer says this would be a terrible precedent and could jeopardize the ability for the ICRC to go around the world to prisons, see what's wrong, and tell governments what they need to do confidentially to meet the Geneva Conventions. This is all about setting the conditions for the trial. Who can see what? Who can say what? What can be said in open court? And most importantly, what evidence will be admissible when we get the trial, maybe next year? I think this must be hard on the victims. I think we've heard more words like waterboarding and torture than we've heard 9/11 or about September 11th.
Well, that's exactly the point, Carol.
And these are dry legal motions with testimony.
I mean, you've set the stage perfectly, Carol, because that's what I want to ask Joe Torrillo. I mean, you are a victim of 9/11. The whole nation was, but you were there. You suffered. How did it feel to be there, and what's your response to these pretrial motions?
Well, you know, for me, it's obviously very, very bittersweet. It's a moment in time that I've been waiting for the last 6 years for many reasons. I think first and foremost is to put a face on hate and evil. But on the other side of the coin, it's very disheartening as I feel, you know, about the whole judicial process as a whole and how we put the prosecution basically on the stand and cross-examine them while these 5 beings, and I'll refrain from calling them human beings, sit there and take this all in at a tremendous expense to the American people, which in effect to me is another terrorist incident in itself.
Joe, where would you want them to be tried? Would you prefer that they be tried in court in the United States? What do you think should happen to them?
No, I don't think they should be tried in the courts of the United States. I don't have a legal background, so I can't tell you technically why. And if I did, I would, you know, I'd be out of place, and I don't like to do that. Certainly, I think Guantanamo is as good a place as any for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's physically insulated from the shores of the United States of America, preventing a lot of protests from all different kinds of groups, sympathetic people, or people that are part of their organization. And that's something that the United States just doesn't need right now, 12 years after the attack, where we're trying to, get back up on our feet. And for somebody like me who's on a mission to make our country the reunited States of America again and to resurrect patriotism, they are where they are. And, of course, I am proud, as hard as this is for me to even swallow, is that our government is giving them as fair a trial as anybody would get. And I'm proud that that's a statement about our country and the people that we are.
Now, how do you feel about the fact that the military judge is letting them wear camouflage uniform-style garments?
Something, I thought about that. At this point, they can come in with three-piece suits. They can come in with bathing suits. To me, it's all a charade on their part. We're not intimidated by them. This is not a mockery as far as I'm concerned. To me, they're not even an entity in this world. I couldn't even care, to tell you the truth, if I even saw their face. It means nothing to me. All I'm concerned about is that the prosecution stays the course and that justice will be served on behalf of the victims and their families.